Hello, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am Disco Kitty, the Crappy Crafter. Recently, I bought myself a new pair of glasses. I haven't had them long, but I like them well enough. I think I did a short on them, I don't remember. Anyways, so they're cool because they have magnetic toppers. We love magnetic toppers. The last few pair of eyeglasses that we got from a different company, and they had a magnet right here, and there were topper sunglasses, which is super cool. But these are meant to actually just completely change the look of your glasses so that you can have different glasses without having different glasses. Now, I have decided that I want to make my own toppers, so let's just get right into it. Gonna make a mold and then use some resin and some stuff, and things are going to get interesting. So let's get right into it. Oh look, the toppers I bought match the box the silicone rubber comes in. That's super cool. That means it's definitely gonna work, right? It's an omen, right? Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to make the box, or the mold housing. It's going to just be cardstock paper and lots and lots and lots of tape. Poor man's laminating material. Lots and lots and lots of tape. As a teenager, I used to tape up so many pieces of paper. I used to make cards to remember what I was doing for like role-playing games and stuff like that, and it was all taped up, because one of the things you can do, depending on the tape, is you can also make like a mini whiteboard. You can just erase off the like whiteboard marker when you put it on that. It's very handy. Make sure that every corner, every piece is covered in tape, or the silicone will stick to the paper or leak through the edges. I did end up going through here and I made sure that all of the bottom corners had a triple layer of tape just to make sure that it wasn't going to leak, and it didn't. I was very pleased. I have, however, since then bought a proper mold housing, modular mold housing from Let's Resin on Amazon. It's going to be the same silicone I use here. And we'll see how it works. I don't know. I might make another video. I might not. I don't know yet. And what we're going to do with the blue tack is we're going to make like a pedestal or a rise for the toppers to sit on, because I want the top or the front to be the bottom of the mold. I don't want to have to worry about if the edges are going to be straight or if I've flubbed it up somehow. So that is going to end up being on the bottom, but it looks like it's on the top right now because it's going to be the top of the first half of the mold, if that makes any sense. I don't know. So we'll put it in here and then we'll make this layer. This layer of silicone is going to be 200 grams. I originally measured off 50-50, 100 grams of the two-part silicone I got from Let's Resin, and it wasn't enough. So I was like, okay, we'll just double it. We'll pour on another layer. It worked pretty well. Later, the actual cap of the mold will be made with just 100 grams. Here, I'm trying a new thing for me. I'm pouring from a height and using the torch to try to get rid of any bubbles on the way down. Plus, it will thin it because it will make it nice and hot, and it'll get into all the little crevices I need it to get into. Here, we're going to take apart our little paper mold. I didn't know how I was going to make the second part of the mold. I figured I was just going to plop it right back in this paper and then pour the second layer, or technically the third, but pour the cap on top. But I just couldn't get the paper to sit flush with the edges of the mold. But we'll talk about that later. Here, there was a layer of silicone that got in underneath the blue tack in a lot of places, in the vast majority of the places, which is fine. At least it didn't rise to the top. I was afraid that the whole thing was going to just rise to the top, float. But it didn't. I was very happy. So we have to cut away all the excess silicone, and then we're gonna pull out the blue tack, which mostly comes out. There's still a couple of pieces here and there, but like I said, this will be the back side of the toppers. And the back side, it doesn't really matter how the back side looks as long as it's relatively flat and will sit flush on my glasses. Here I'm going to try to widen the opening to the mold itself, to the crevices themselves, but it doesn't work as well as I want it to. When I make my next mold, I'm going to make that blue tack patch different. I'm going to make it wider at the base than it is where it's touching the toppers. Here I'm making a couple of key cuts because why not? I don't really need them because this has a very specific shape, but it's okay. So I tried doing the paper thing I said, but I just couldn't get the paper to sit flush, so I'm just going to use tape and it's gonna work. It'll be fine. All I could find was my cornstarch. I have actual talcum powder here somewhere, and I looked for it, but I couldn't find it. Cornstarch is what a lot of baby powders are made of now. They used to be talcum powder. Now pretty much the only way you can get talcum powder that I could find easily is for billiards or pool. You know, I have no idea what you use talcum powder for in billiards. To put on the end of your pool cue? I don't know. It's been a long time since I've played, and we always used that blue chalk thing. So what is talcum powder for? I don't know. Here we're gonna slap out as many bubbles as we can, and I think we do a pretty good job because the toppers that I do eventually end up with actually look pretty darn good. This is the next day. There have already been like 4 or 5 days, probably longer, of actually working with this. The first half of the mold sat for like 2 weeks because I just didn't have time to get to it. But here we are. I am happy to say the cornstarch worked just as well as the talcum powder for making sure that the 2 layers stayed separate. Very pleased with that. That makes me very happy. The other reason why I wanted to make sure that the front of the toppers was on the bottom is because the back will now have a powder finish because of the powder on the mold that got sucked into the silicone itself. And I wanted to make sure that the toppers were, shiny. And like I said, I don't care what the backside of the toppers look like as long as they sit flush. Now we're going to mix up some resin. I mixed up way too much resin. The glasses literally take maybe 10 milliliters. That might even be too much, but it's really hard to make that little. So luckily I have some waste molds that I use frequently. It's those shaker molds that I really like. And I'll end up using those every time, even though I won't show it every time. Remember, when you're mixing, scrape the sides and the bottom constantly and mix for at least 5 minutes. This alcohol ink, I believe, is from Let's Resin. I don't remember, but let me tell you the stank. Oh, it smells like death. It smells like rotting meat. It is so disgusting. Luckily, the smell doesn't last for very long. And then we'll put in some hollow glitter. And this is why I want to make the face of the mold, as it were, the top where you can see, wider, so it's easier to pour and get into all of those little crevices. Those crevices are really, really tiny, and it was really hard to make sure that the resin was in every single spot, as you'll come to see as I do this again, and again. I make 4 pairs and only 1 are successful. And even that one still has bubbles in it, but with the glitter in the front, you can't see them, and I call it a success. The problem with this, like I said earlier, is they are curved, so the two pieces on the very, very ends are higher than the bridge in the middle. So that's going to make it tough to figure out exactly how much resin I need, how to put the cap back on to make sure that every spot is full of resin. I was impressed with how well the cap went on, though. It went on fairly easily. Oh, look at all that resin that I squish out. That's okay. It'll get scooped up and put into the waste molds anyways. There's my leaf, and then the flower, and the heart, and the moon. Was it a moon? Yeah, the crescent moon. I'll have a bunch of those in red with silver hollow glitter when we're done with this. Now it's time to take it all apart. I'll take these apart first because, you know, why not? They're here. And they're easy. And it really shows that my resin is cured and not sticky. It's part of the reason why I take those apart first, because I don't want to jump in straight into the glasses toppers and find out that the resin itself is disgusting. And now it's time to find out. And we can see by the bubbles that it did not work. This one will come out in two pieces. And you can see where the mold, that one lens, the mold didn't close properly the first time. I make sure it closes properly the other 3 times. But you can see where it built up along the side of the inside of the frame. Ugh. Alright, let's move on to round 2. In this one, you can tell I still have my left hand fingernails on. Yes, I only polish one hand worth of fingernails, and that was not a happy, joyful motion. These are also not going to work. You can tell because of the bubbles. And this one will come out in 2 pieces as well, but it's a lot better. We're getting there. It's better. 3rd time is not the charm. But it's still getting better. Still getting better. But again, there were just a couple of bubbles and little tiny spots, and it just kind of comes apart. Little tiny bubbles in this one though. It doesn't come apart until later when I'm messing around with it. Time for number 4 and our grand finale of unmolding. Of course there's more stuff coming. And the other thing I didn't do is I didn't widen the openings of the where the lenses would be, so it was hard to take them out, but it's whole. Almost completely there. So I went in with a nail file, and eventually I'll break out a knife. Yep, there it is. And I'll get most of the edges cleaned up. The toppers that worked. Now I do have proper magnets in the mail, And I may or may not have gotten them by the time this goes live, because this goes live on a Wednesday and I was supposed to get them on a Monday, but as of doing this voiceover on that Monday, they hadn't come yet. But I'm super excited. I'm so excited that they work. They need better magnets. That's all. Yay. All right. Well, that took days and days and days to do, but you know what? I did it. Kind of. I mean, I'm gonna have to get more powerful magnets, but look! I made my own toppers! And they stick as long as I don't because the magnet's not strong enough. And that's fine. I thought about getting some really tiny neodymium, 4x4 millimeter by 1 millimeter. I don't know, the 1 millimeter might be too fat, but we'll see. But look! It only took 4 tries to get it right. I'm excited. All right. Thank you so much for visiting, and I'll see you next week. Stay safe.